My name is Adeyin Kashediji. I'm making this video in fulfillment of my coursework 2 in Foundation of Business Management, where I'd carried out an extensive analysis using the PESTLE framework on a soon-to-be launched fashion upcycling enterprise by the Coventry City Council. I'm going to give a brief background on what PESTLE is and the different factors, relevant factors that affects the business and the macro environment. I'm also going to give a recommendation, a final recommendation from the analysis that has been done. And I'm also going to give a personal perspective on upcycling as someone that has always lived in Africa and recently just moved to the United Kingdom. PESTLE is a strategic management tool used by decision makers to scan the environment in which a business operates and identify potential risk or opportunities. That way, they can make sound decisions in ways that help navigate risk and take full advantage of opportunities. PESTLE is an acronym for political, environmental, social, technological, economic, and legal factors that have relevance on the activities of the business in a particular environment. Um, Briefly, I'm going to discuss each of these factors with respect to our business. Our business, again, is fast fashion upcycling, and basically, it is the repurposing of fashion items in a way that gives them new lease of life and can be reconsumed or reused. Now, I'm talking about the environmental point of view or the environmental factor. Fast fashion is one of the biggest contributors to um, environmental pollution in the world, emitting more than 10% of the carbon into the environment. So, up, fast fashion upcycling, as our business is set to do, is something that gives a viable alternative where consumers can still consume fashion items without necessarily damaging the environment. This is something that is in the front burner now, especially around the world. Consumers are more environmental conscious, and I see that as an opportunity for our business. Another factor that is also important is the social factor. Social trends now are being driven across the globe by younger people, Gen Z, who have also become socially conscious about the environment, about who they choose to spend their money with. In fact, there are research that points to the fact that Gen Zs would rather spend their money with environmentally friendly business rather than just spend their money with businesses that are not conscious of the environment. This puts us in a good light, especially with the Coventry community that is home to 2 universities with a teeming population of young people. Um, Another aspect is the technological aspect. This same young people, Gen Zs, are doing a lot in terms of communicating via social media, carrying on trends that depicts um upcycling as very cool thing to do. And then this is a way that adoption can grow amongst the community, especially the Coventry community. What our business basically needs to do is to ensure that we have a strong online presence where we drive our message, where we drive the message of the brand, which is majorly not for profit, but to protect the environment and deliver a viable um, solution where people can still maintain fashion trend without necessarily the environment. That's the technology bit. And then from the economic point of view, one of the most important things for a business is this overhead. How do we cover our overhead? How are we economically viable? How can we compete? The good thing about this fashion upcycling is that the raw materials are used clothes, and used clothes are in abundance. There's so much that they're even causing a nuisance to the society. We're just helping bring something that could have been a nuisance to society and repurposing them and putting them to good use. That way we have abundance of raw materials. The only thing we need to do is we need to get creative about how to get people to participate, to volunteer, to recycle their old items with us. We can incentivize it, give some kind of gift, give some kind of reward, and then we would have abundance of materials that we can work with, and our overhead will reduce, and we can compete fairly with fast fashion companies that run large supply chains. Talking about the political point of view, it's very interesting because one of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals is cutting carbon, and there's a major emphasis on the fashion industry, on how there needs to be a reduction in the way that we consume these items if we're going to save the earth that we live in. Also on the national front in the UK, they've been called by parliamentary groups and several pressure groups for the reduction of emission that is caused by fast fashion industry. Looking at this light, international policies, local government policies are in favor of our business as it is aligned to a green future that is being preached both by international bodies, federal governments, and even the Coventry Local Council. And then a from the final point of view, which is about legal factor, one of the things that are more prominent about fast fashion is the use of inhumane ways of doing things, um, staff treatments, and then disasters like what happened in Rana in Bangladesh. But with our own kind of business, with the way that we're going to also gather customer data, with the way that we're also going to position ourselves in the community, we're going to ensure that our business are ethically viable and then socially responsible and also works within the legal framework. Right now, there are not a lot of legal framework around upcycling because this is almost a new field. But as laws and government policies are coming up, we're also going to do our best to ensure that we adapt. And one of those things are around labor laws and then the kind of practices, workplace practices that we do. So conclusively, I would like to say that the Coventry Upcycling Enterprise is a very viable business. All of the macroeconomic factors point to the fact that this is a viable business that is going to do well, and then that if properly implemented will go a long way. Um, Again, personally, as someone that has always lived in Africa, I also think that there is a close tie between consumption and poverty. You find that a lot of unused or worn items in the Western countries are moved to Africa for use, and then because of the level of poverty, people cannot afford a lot of those new items. Again, too, if this is a consciousness that is brought to a continent like Africa, where we have over a billion population of people, it's going to be a bigger impact than it will even be in the UK. So I really think that the way to go is upcycling. We're taking a right step in the right direction, and I'm sure that this business is viable and is going to go all the way. Thank you very much.